Hi, we're Billy and Becky Epperhart. We want to welcome you to another episode of Run Your Race. And today we're going to talk about running the race of your current season. Amen. So please stay tuned. There's an appointed course that God has for your life and for our life. You cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction overnight. Run the race that God has called you to run. Welcome to another episode of Run Your Race. We're Billy and Becky. And honey, we've been excited about this series that we've been teaching on.
We have. I know we're enjoying it. I hope you're tuning in and enjoying it also.
So today we're going to continue to expand on this subject, and we're going to talk about running the race of your current season. So we've been talking about running the race that God has called you to. In fact, a verse that we haven't had the chance yet to share in this episode is 2 Timothy chapter 4 and in verse 7, and it says, "I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, and I have kept the faith." Mm-hmm. Now that's the Apostle Paul, and he the part that I want to focus on here was he said, "I have finished the race." You know, now that's really a major statement to be able to make, because what Paul was really saying was, I got into the race that God wanted me to get in. Because remember, it's important that you learn to run the race of life, which we've talked about. And then the second thing that we're going to begin to get into today is you have to run the race of your current season. Right. Those two races you have to be responsible in order to really run the race of your purpose, right? Amen. And so here, Paul gives us some insight, because he said here in the first part of this verse, he said, "I have fought the good fight." Mm-hmm. And so the reason that I want to bring that out to you about running the race of your current season is this, is that many times staying on the track, right? Staying on the track, the race that you're running, and staying on the track that you're running on, sometimes it's a fight, right?
Yes.
And so Paul said in Ephesians chapter 6 that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, and then he begins to list the tiers of literally demonic powers that try to influence and fight. Now the good news is we know that when Jesus was raised from the dead on the third day, we know that he took the keys of death and hell, Revelation chapter 1. So we know that he did that. We know Satan has been defeated. We know 2 Corinthians chapter 2, I believe it's verse 14, it says that Christ led this whole parade, this triumph parade of all the vanquished foes behind him. Of course, Satan was the primary foe. So when he's talking about fighting the good fight, Satan's been defeated, but what Satan will try to do is he will try to resist you. That's why James said to us, resist the devil. Actually, Ephesians 4, then I'll talk about James. Ephesians 4 says, resist the devil and he will flee from you.
But you notice he said, fight the good fight.
Fight the good fight.
He didn't say just get out there and fight.
Right.
So there's a way to do it that makes it a good fight, and then you'll always be the winner.
And that fight, Paul identified it. This is where I'm going. He identified that fight in 1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse 12, where he said, fight the good fight of faith. Because what happens is what Satan wants to do is get you out of faith, get you out of believing God. Now, Hebrews 11:1 says faith is, remember, he defined it in Hebrews chapter, I believe the Apostle Paul wrote the book of Hebrews, and that he identified in Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 1, he said, now faith is the substance of things hoped for. So the reason I want to take a minute on there is what Satan will try to attack in you is your vision. He will try to attack your purpose, because remember, faith is the substance of things hoped for. Hope is the vision of what you see for the future. Hope is that expectation that you have, if God be for me, who can be against me? Hope is the things you're believing for, in the sense that what you're seeing and expecting. And we'll talk about that on your dreams and your destiny a little more. But faith is the substance. So watch this. If you don't have hope, you don't have vision, you don't have something you're believing and looking forward to, then there's nothing for faith to attach itself to. Most people miss that.
And it may sound like we're not talking about the seasons.
But we are.
But we are.
Yeah.
This is crucial that you understand this. And I'm very visual. And so it's like a child. And someone says, oh, don't worry, it's just the stage they're going through. They're right. But they bleed over into another stage. They forget to tell you that part. We're telling you that part.
Right.
And it's the good fight that will carry you through, that will finish this one and take you into the other season. So it's very good.
And what Satan wants to attack is those dreams, those expectations. So when Paul said, I've fought the good fight, even though we know, right, we know that, that Paul in the end of his life was killed by those that opposed the gospel, right? We know that. But he said before he left, when he's writing to Timothy, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. Now, that's an amazing thing. Of course, we know that Paul wrote 2/3 of the New Testament. And so in the impact that he's had on all of us today and how the Holy Spirit spoke through him to us in his epistles has literally changed all of our lives. So he fought the good fight. That's what I'm saying. And we see the result of that today. What I'm sharing with you today is in order for us to run the race of purpose and what we call run the race, it's the race of life. And then secondly, before you ever get to the race of your purpose, or the race of your destiny, it's important that you understand running the race of your season. So here's why. I've seen many people start strong, but they do not finish well.
Right.
In running the race. They don't finish well. In other words, they either get off track, and some that we have seen, and even Paul talks about in his epistles, some have got off permanently.
They get weary of the fight.
They get weary, and then
the Bible says, don't be weary
in well-doing.
In well-doing.
Right. Because in due season, you'll reap.
You'll reap, and we...
Yeah, Galatians chapter 6 tells us that's true. So when you look at that, in your life, what I want you to get on this as we talk about each season is you cannot let Satan steal your dreams. You cannot let him steal your hope. Your dreams and your hope are one and the same. Right? They go together.
You lose one, you lose the other.
So when we talk about, in fact, today, you were just talking, we call her Miss Jamie, but the Jamie Womack yesterday, they're going to Alaska, and they talked about seeing the bears coming out. She was talking to you about that. And because the salmon run. And you have to remember that when the salmon are running, right, they're going up the stream, that when they're running, you have to remember those salmon are pregnant with eggs.
Yes.
And there are many, many eggs, right, that are there. And most people think that the bears are after the salmon. But the truth is, what they really like the most is the eggs that are in the salmon. Now, what you have to understand is that in life, we're running this race, and in most time, remember, all good things are upstream in your life. So sometimes you're not only swimming against the current, right?
The fight.
You're also having to miss the bears, as it were. And here's what I want you to hear. What the bears are really after is the eggs.
Your dreams.
The eggs in your life are your dreams.
And your hope.
And what Satan is after your hope. He's after your dreams. People say, well, Satan's after my faith. Sure, he wants to take your faith. But what he really goes after is the eggs, because the eggs on the inside of you are your dreams, are your hopes, they're your expectations. That's what he wants to steal. And if he can steal that, then he'll keep you from your purpose. He'll keep you because your purpose is pregnant with all of those eggs that God fully intended to put in you. And if we allow Satan to steal them, then we're surrendering really our purpose to Satan and getting off the track.
This is where you need to get excited.
Yeah.
Because this is what it's all about.
It's all about that.
It's what it's all about. And you will gain, you will grow, you will gain strength, you will gain understanding, and pretty soon you'll be running at that giant and say,
praise God.
Come on.
That's right. Yeah, come on, John.
Come on.
David said, we talked about this in the first program. David said, I slew a lion and I slew a bear. Who is
That's
this
right.
uncircumcised Philistine?
That should be your anthem.
You know,
Every season.
You know, talking about dreams and hope and faith and expect. David said when he was facing Goliath, he said this out loud. He spoke, and the Bible has it recorded, 1 Samuel 17. He spoke, and he said, and today, he said, I'm going to take your head, told Goliath. David told Goliath. David weighed about a best case at that time. He was a teenager. Best case, he weighed 150 pounds. He was facing this massive giant, at least 9 foot tall, and weighed however many hundreds of pounds the giant weighed. David said, today, he didn't just say, I'm going to kill you with my slingshot. What he said was, today, I'm going to take your head from your shoulders. David said that out loud to the giant. Now, the giant laughed, but David took his slingshot, right? And he threw that guided missile right at Goliath, hit him right in the forehead.
Brought him down.
And then David went and took the sword that was on Goliath and cut off Goliath's head. Now you say, what does that mean? Here's what that means is that when you run at the giants in your life, right? When you run at them and you go toward them and you have your slingshot, you're moving, always remember there's more resource for you than what you see or know or understand when you're doing that. So you let your dreams guide you. Don't look at the circumstances. David didn't have a sword. He didn't look at the circumstances. He knew if God be for me, who could be against me? And he did not let Satan. Now, the whole nation of Israel had allowed Satan to steal their dreams. Mm-hmm. David did not allow Satan to steal his dreams, and he ran at the giant in his life. And that's what God has really called us to do. And the reason we're talking about this is because when Satan tries to come for those eggs, tries to come for your dreams, what he'll do, if you let him do that, he'll get you not only off the track, he'll get you completely out of the race.
He will.
And you have to make sure that you keep your faith and you keep your hope on the inside of you to do that. So we want to encourage you today.
Hope alive.
So Paul said, I have fought the good fight. So when you're in the race, there is a good fight. He said, and I have finished the race. And he said, and I have kept the faith. So he's giving us that secret sauce, if you would, kind of embedded right there in 2 Timothy 4 and verse 7, right there. I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, and I have kept the faith. Mm-hmm. And that's such a powerful thing to know. Now, in talking about this, to try to transition, what we're really talking about is as you're in this race, that there are seasons in life that you go through, and there are seasons in life that literally the preparation that comes in your life in different seasons, that preparation is necessary in order for you to go to the next season that God has you for. Mm-hmm. Now, in that prophetic word we talked about earlier, right? Mm-hmm. The one that we mentioned in an earlier episode, that was real long and you know, double spaced it, they transcribed it. That the original prophetic word ended up being 68 pages. I didn't even believe in prophecy at that time in my life, personal prophecy, but it has been so accurate and so incredible. And one of the things that he said to us, talking about seasons now, one of the things he said in there, he said, Billy, you've handled tens of millions of dollars in your life, but he said you're coming into a season when you're going to handle hundreds of millions of dollars. And then he even said, and billions. Now, most of the time when somebody says that to you, right, something like that, that's kind of like a positive prophecy somebody thinks that would never happen.
Because you know you're in this season now.
Yeah, you're in this season.
You can't fathom growing to that season.
And sitting here at Andrew Womack Ministries as CEO and Charis Bible College now and Gospel Truth Network, what we see that's already happened, right? That the part of the hundreds of millions has already happened, and then we have another company where we've seen that happen in that company as well. So that prophetic word. Then he said billions, and when Big Andrew comes in, Andrew Womack comes in, he talks about the size of the campus that we're building here. It'll be well over $1 billion. So it's amazing to me how that in one season, God can speak to you about something that seems so far-fetched. It seems almost impossible. And matter of fact, in some instances when they come, it's not that you're even believing for it, right?
Yeah.
It's just God preparing you for what's going to happen and what's going to come. So the reason I say that is because 3 John and verse 2 says, "Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things." Now, thank God for that promise that you may prosper in all things and be in health. And then he said this secret sauce, even as your soul prospers.
There's a connection there.
There's a connection. And so the financial prosperity God wants you to have, the health, physical prosperity God wants you to have, he said both of those prosperities are connected to as your soul prospers. So here's what happens. Many times we will go into seasons of our life, different seasons. We all know that just from a natural. In fact, look at the natural seasons that you have.
Right.
In the earth, right? So we have a spring, right? And we have a summer, and typically every year, summer always follows spring, and then fall always follows summer, and then winter always follows fall, right? So the seasons, we understand the seasons that we live with in society. And let me just say this a couple things here as a side note about seasons. Number one, when the springs of your life come around, make sure you're ready to plant. Okay, that's so important because a lot of times people, the seasons of their life will change and the spring of seasons will come and we're not ready to plant. And we waste the opportunity or we waste the season. And then when the summers of your life come, make sure that you're ready to protect what you've planted and what's growing because the weeds will take it.
Out.
The bugs will take it. You've got to protect in the summer. You've got to be willing to protect. Now, let me say this. If you haven't planted in the spring and you haven't protected in the summer, it's impossible to reap in the fall. So a lot of people will ask me, well, Billy, how come I'm not reaping?
They act surprised.
They act surprised. How come this hasn't happened? Well, the question I always have is, did you plant in the spring? And did you protect the crop in the summer? Because if you did, it works every time that you'll reap in the fall. In other words, you'll have the opportunity to reap, but then you have to take the action of actually reaping in the fall. So when we say that in the context of seasons, and somebody will say, well, then what do you do for winter? Well, winter's the time for the ground to rest, right? And that winters is the time when you get recharged, when you get reignited, you get re-fired up, if it were, to say. And so the seasons are important. Now, it's the same thing. The seasons in the earth are important. It's the same thing of the seasons in your life, right?
You know what part of the prophecy, we'll go back to that too. We'll go in and out of this now that you brought it up.
Yeah.
It said the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yep, the good, bad, and the ugly.
One of the goods in our life was going to Burlington, Colorado.
Yeah.
When we were very young.
Very young.
Early 20s.
Yep.
And we thought we were going for one reason, but now that brought me back to remembrance. But the other was is that we were born up and raised in a ranching area, right?
Right.
But not a farming. So we truly did not understand what you just talked about.
Yeah, in the seasons.
In the seasons.
Right.
But God gave us an opportunity to move there, live there, and be a part of that community.
Absolutely.
And so we know what it means to plant.
We know what
it means to protect. We know when that phone call came and said, there's a storm coming.
Yeah.
This is such and such. You hopped in your car and you went there and you stood on the edge of that property and you commanded the wind to stop, the hail to move. And we literally watched the hail
go around,
move.
Yeah,
we
true.
experienced
We saw that.
And then we saw in the winter where the ground rested and the farmers then moved inside, and that's where they worked on their tractors.
That's it.
They worked on to start getting ready to plant.
Oh, we saw it.
the spring came.
Oh, it's powerful.
It's powerful. I mean, I get goosebumps right now because of what God did in our life.
That's right. We got to see it.
We got to see it and experience it.
And your life, our life,
We
what
changed.
we do in your life is like that. It's like the changing seasons, right? You have to realize that. And some people say, well, I want to live in the spring all my life, or I want to live in the summer all my life. The truth is that all of those seasons are connected for a reason. And that's why we tell you to run the race of the current season. Because sometimes you're in the spring.
That's right.
Sometimes you're in the summer. Sometimes you're in the fall. It's important that you run the race and you're faithful to God in the season that you're in. So
each season is important.
Each season is important, and God is doing something in you and something through you in each season.
That's right.
And that's why it's important that you learn in your life to steward the seasons. Now, we just read that 3 John 2 that says, beloved, I wish you would prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. So the reason I read that verse here with seasons, said, Billy, it doesn't say anything in that verse about season. I got a couple for you here in a second on season. But what it does say, it says, even as your soul prospers. So here's the key. The key is you have to understand that you want your soul to prosper in each season. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, why am I taking the time to bring that up? Because sometimes you're in seasons that may not be as enjoyable as other seasons. That's the part you need to know. That most of the time when you're in a season that's not as enjoyable, there's things that God is preparing in you. Regardless of what it looks like, regardless of how things seem, regardless in some instances how devastating something seems in your life. Now, God didn't do that, right? Mm-hmm. That was the devil doing it. But you have to understand God can take, Genesis chapter 50 tells us God can take what Satan meant for evil and turn it for good.
And He knows what's coming.
And He knows. And
He knows what you need to be prepared for.
And just like we talked about one of the early episodes where the navigation system will say recalculating, God knows how to take you through that. So here's what I want you to understand. For you to go from one season to the next season that God has planned in your life, it's so important that your soul prospers.
Yes.
Right? So you have to grow. You have to change. In fact, I'll say we have this free devotional that is called 2 Weeks to Embracing Change and Achieving Your Potential, that you can go just check out the QR code that's there with you on your screen, and you can take that. You can download this totally free right now. You can go on and get this and download it. This will help you. Also, if you need prayer, I want to encourage you to call our prayer lines here. You can see the phone number there on the bottom. You can call the prayer line, and you can even ask for this at the prayer line. So I just want to encourage you to get this book. It'll help you. It's really a small devotional.
Tools,
it's like a mini book that's actually a devotional. Mm-hmm. So I want to encourage you in that. Now I want to read this next verse.
Okay.
Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse 1. And it says, to everything there is a time and a season. To everything. To everything there is a time and a season. And so I share that because times that happen in our life, typically key times initiate new seasons. Now, that's not true in every instance, but many instances, key times of things we go through helps us or causes us in the transition to go into, for example, the next season. And so one of the things that I want to share with you, that many times we don't go from one season to the next like we're supposed to, because we get stuck in the same season. In other words, we get stuck there. Maybe we enjoy the season. Maybe that's what it is. But we get, in fact, us sitting here doing this program right now, for us,
it's a new season.
But I'm a natural reluctant to do this type of thing.
Season.
And so it's a new season, or you get stuck where you were, right? Yeah. But it's also true. In fact, let me share this about new seasons in this context. I ask people sometimes, and I say, well, how many years of experience do you have, for example? I do this teaching on finances, business. how many years of experience do you have in that industry now? And many times they'll say, oh, I have 20 years of experience, right? I have 20 years of experience in the industry. Well, once I get to talking to them a little more, I find out they don't really have 20 years of experience. Now, yes, they worked in the industry for 20 years, but they stopped growing after the first year.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They stopped growing,
and then they were automatically on repeat.
So they did what they did was they did the first year 20 times, as opposed to continuing to grow and change. And so you say, well, what does that mean? Here's what it means. It doesn't mean you have 20 years of experience. What it means is you have 1 year of experience and you did it 20 times. In other words, the truth is real experience is when you're learning to grow and change from season to season and keep developing in your life for what God has next for you. And that's one of the things we mean about learning to mature in each season, because here's the key. Each season of your life becomes the foundation for the next season. It's the foundation you build on. So if you think of seasons, you could see it like stair steps. Instead of it being a line of continuum where here's this season and here's this season, here's this season, it literally is like stair steps, and here's this season.
I'm going to draw that.
And then when you go up to the next step, that vertical of going up is a season of change. That's why we have talked about it's important to get this in this free download. It's a season that you go up. That's the time of change that takes you to the next season that you're to go into in your life. And so today, I just want to encourage you. We're going to continue to talk about this, about the seasons of your life. And then we're going to really, in this whole series that we're doing, we're really going to get in talking about the season of your purpose. And so today, I want to encourage you. Matter of fact, we have a book called Run Your Race that I wrote several years ago. We actually took this program, not just the one we're teaching today, but the whole TV program. We actually took it from this book. We're calling it Run Your Race. And so we're starting these episodes off where we're teaching from this book on running your race that God has for you. And we're talking about run the race of the current season that you're in. And so you can get this. You can call the prayer line and get this book. And there's a donation amount that goes with it. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but you can get this. And so you can see it there on the screen. I just want to encourage you to do that. And honey, we're excited about people that have joined us for this time we have in talking about Run Your Race.
It's a ride.
It's a ride. So we want you to join us in the next episode. We're going to continue to cover the race of your current season. Hi, we're Billy and Becky Epperhart, and today we want to talk to you about a new book. It has my name on it, but we wrote it together. It's called Run Your Race. And honey, it's important that people understand how to discover their purpose and how to fulfill their purpose in the plan of God.
We really do, because we see it in the day and time that we're in right now. People aren't happy. They aren't satisfied. I think it's because they really don't know they're in a race.
Yep.
They're trying to skip it and get the fruit at the end.
That's right. And the truth is, you need to have a view of the plan and the will of God for your life from a 30,000-foot view. And in this book, we talk about the different seasons you go through. We talk about the race of your purpose and the right time to be able to change in the seasons of your life. So we want to encourage you to get a copy of this. Get it today. Run Your Race.